Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, a podcast for the woman who is ready to stop performing and reclaim her voice. I'm your host, Celeste, and around here, we don't do surface level. We go deep. Each week, we'll explore concepts like self-discovery, radical honesty, and the kind of healing that rewrites your story from the inside out. This is a space for truth-telling, for remembering who you are, and for coming home to yourself, louder, braver, and more radiant than ever. So come as you are, and let's do this together. Let's begin. Welcome back to My Healing is Your Healing, and I am your host, Celeste. And today we are stepping into the world of barbells, binge eating, and what it means to rebuild your life when the very thing that gave you confidence also broke you down. Here's the truth. So many of us search for confidence in places that seem solid, in work titles, in numbers on a scale, in numbers in a bank account, in gold stars, achievements, and medals. We tell ourselves, when I lose the weight, or when I hit that PR, or when I qualify for Boston, when I land the 10-year track job, or when I cross that Ironman finish line, then I'll finally feel like enough. And for a while it works. And I know that because I did live it. For me, it looked like chasing those Ironman finish lines, pushing for a Boston qualifier, grinding for a university job that looked good on paper. And yes, there were moments of pride, moments when crossing that finish line or earning that title felt like proof that I was strong and disciplined and worthy. But here's what no one tells you. The same thing that once makes you feel powerful can also start to hollow you out. Because the moment that the race is over, the applause fades, or the title doesn't fix that ache inside of you, you realize that all of the achievement in the world can't heal an identity based on performance. And for me, that's when the cost shows up. For me, it was burnout. It was body image struggles, and it was nights staring in the mirror asking, who even am I without that next goal? So what happens when the thing that gave you confidence starts costing you your health or your joy or your identity? That is the tension of this episode. It's about chasing strength, only to find yourself weaker inside. It's about the toll that perfection takes on your body, on your voice, and on your worth. And it's about what it takes to reclaim a confidence that isn't rooted in a scale or a medal or someone else's approval. Because confidence built on conditions will always be fragile. But confidence built on truth, that is unshakable. And my guest today knows this story intimately. Tasha Kostalas is a teacher turned bodybuilder who is now a full-time fitness coach. She's a powerlifter, a podcaster, and a published author. Her debut memoir, Beyond the Barbell, Confessions of a Female Fitness Competitor, released this September. Natasha's story is one of discipline, transformation, and resilience, but also of burnout, binge eating, body dysmorphia, and the price that we pay when achievements start costing us our health. Today, we're talking about body image, rebuilding identity after rock bottom, and learning to find a confidence and self-worth that doesn't depend on a title or that number on a scale or a shiny little medal. So if you've ever looked into the mirror and not recognized yourself, if you've ever wondered how to rebuild yourself after losing the very thing that you thought would save you, this episode is for you. So let's dig in. Welcome, Natasha. Do you go by Tasha or Natasha?
Normally people call me Tash or Tasha. Only my mum calls me Natasha. You can call me whatever.
We'll stick with Tasha.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Really, really excited for this conversation.
Me too. Let's dig in. You were a teacher for 10 years before fully stepping into fitness, and now you're a powerlifter, a podcaster, and an author.
For people who only know your highlight reel, the stage shots, the lean bodies and polished bios, who is Tasha underneath those titles and the trophies?
So I would best describe myself as someone that, I have so much, I'm passionate about everything that I do. So even, when you take away the fitness, when you take away the book and everything else, it's that everything I do is all about being hardworking and working towards something. And, I know everyone's different with having goals or not having goals, but I've always been someone that I love to strive for something, whatever it is. If it's a new hobby, if it's writing a book, if it's whatever it is, I've always been that person where I need to work towards something. I don't know whether it comes from, my mum. She's always been very like ambitious when I was growing up. And I kind of saw that as a good example of like a female role model. But I've always maintained that. And I would say that probably in and outside of fitness, even in my everyday life, it's all about working towards something, striving something, having a routine, but most importantly, doing what I love every day. And that's something that I learned a hell of a lot from moving from a 10-year career in teaching to finally doing what I love now, which is in fitness.
That's amazing. It's funny. I was just thinking about this as you were saying it, but like we get that sense of achievement or success from what we see when we're growing up, right? Whether it's our families or our friends or television, right? And so your mom was that example for you.
Yeah, 100%. And she even now at my age now, at the age of 36, she still maintains and being my biggest supporter in everything and anything I do. She's not really into fitness herself, yet she's come to every bodybuilding show. She's come to every powerlifting competition that I've done. And I think it's just so important for women, it might not be necessarily your mom, but having someone that that supports you 100%. And I feel that I don't think I would probably have been as successful if it wasn't for her support and her instilling in me that it's so important to strive for something and having that fire in your belly to achieve something. And I definitely 100% get that from her. And knowing that she's always made me feel growing up that whatever decision I've made, that I should always do whatever I want to do and not worry about, I should be doing this or I should be doing this. But if you want something, you kind of just go and get it sort of thing. And yeah, that's that attitude that I kind of have everyday life, I suppose.
That is so beautiful. And I'm almost a little jealous, right? Because, and especially in the States, we are handed this like script that you're supposed to read off of from the time you're 2 years old. Just get on the conveyor belt and go. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love that your mom was just so supportive.
Yeah. And I just think it's just so important to live life like that, especially at my age now, I feel like there are even more expectations. The later you get into your 30s when you're a woman, it's like, why are you not doing that? Why are you not having kids now? Why? And I just think, life is one of those things where because I lived such an unhappy life when I was teaching, it took me to get to that horrible point in my life for me to realize and discover, I suppose, what is my true happiness now. And I feel that even now, every day, as long as I'm doing everything that makes me happy, that's when I know I'm having a good day. Things go wrong in life. Life isn't linear. Obviously, bad things happen, relationships break down and what have you. But I just think fundamentally, most people should be living their life that, chasing your happiness, because it will make you a well-rounded person. It's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you better at becoming, self-developing and just doing things you want to do. And I think, more people need to be like that, because I was someone that really wasn't like that. So I've learned that way. I've learned the hard way, I suppose.
Yeah, you grow up and you're like, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this thing and it's going to make my life better. And ultimately you keep saying that, life is going to change. But if you don't start making those changes today, tomorrow's never going to look any different.
Exactly. And I think as well, when I reflect on my life, when I was still a teacher, it took me a lot to actually make those changes. And one thing I will say is I do think an individual, especially a woman, you actually need to be ready to make those changes. And again, I'm someone that I will commit to something, but I know I have to be ready to commit. So whether it was like writing my book, I knew I had to commit to it, but I had to be ready to commit to it. The same with the bodybuilding. I knew I wanted to do it, but I had to really weigh up, okay, am I ready to commit right now? Okay, maybe not. Maybe, you know, and I was working 2 years prior to me stepping on stage to be on stage. So I think it's really important for people to know that you do have to be ready and know what's to come to make those changes if you want to commit well and actually execute it well. And I think, you know, committing to changes it's hard because you're very fearful because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how it's going to, you can't predict the future. But I think I was one of those people that I had to be ready to commit to wanting to turn my life around from, you know, the lowest point in my life.
Absolutely. And you have to know the cost of what it is that you're getting yourself into too, or the cost of not doing it. Because I talk about this so much with women where it's like the devil that you know right now of your comfort zone. And you have to know that somehow that is absolutely worse than the unknown that's in front of you.
Yes. And that is so right, Celeste, because the thing is, people will often never make the change because they fear that. They fear the change because they don't know what to expect. They're like, oh, you know, most people would rather sit in their comfort zone. I have thrown myself into so many different feelings of discomfort in various situations in my life that I think it is what makes you a better person. It makes you more resilient, I think. And I feel like the strength that I have now, physically and mentally, is all because I took that first step to be in the worst place of absolute discomfort, which was obviously stepping foot into the gym the first time, never trained before, never picked up a dumbbell in my life. And it's weird because when I reflect on that, I think if I had never done that, I would never be right now. Oh, I wouldn't be sitting talking to you right now.
Yeah.
My whole life path would have been completely different. So sometimes you do have to, it's taking that first leap. In my opinion, it's taking that first leap. And then once you've taken that first leap, you kind of just learn to be comfortable with feeling not comfortable, I suppose.
And the more that you do it, that uncomfortable feeling becomes a feeling that you look forward to because it means you're growing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So I would say as well that for me, when I reflect on my everyday life now, I never ever view myself as a finished product, despite the fact that, you know, everything that I've achieved so far, I always feel that there's more things that are yet to come. And again, working towards different things, doing things, you know, I'd never written a book until now. So it's just, it's you know, that was another thing. So yeah, I just think sometimes you have to just embrace the fear, I think.
I love that. Yes. Okay. So I'm really curious why you even stepped into the gym in the first place, because you said you've never had gone. So walk me through that.
Wow. Okay. So as I mentioned to you, when I was younger, very, very ambitious from a young age, I went straight from being at school or high school, as you'd be, you know, you'd know, into university. And then straight from university, I always knew. So after doing my 3-year English degree, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. My mum is still a teacher to this day. So again, it was kind of like I followed in her footsteps. And so I really had, I had an understanding of where I wanted to go from when I was a child. So then when I became a teacher, I was very naive, I think, as to how much responsibility and striving for more responsibility and becoming a head of English and getting promoted and things like that. I was very naive as to what that life would look like. And, you know, at the time when I got the job as a head of English, which was four years into my English teaching career, which is obviously a very big, it's a very, very big job opportunity. Basically, the GCSE school results are hanging on your shoulders when you're a head of English. You're in charge of all the English teachers in the department, of the whole school. And yeah, so it's a really big job. And I just thought, oh, well, you know, I would feel like I made it if I did that. And it was only really to prove to myself that I could take on such a big responsibility. I was only 26 at the time. And so it was that whole entire year. So 4 years into my English teaching career, I spent 1 year at this school as a head of English. And I'll be honest, it completely ruined me. My mental health declined in a way that I never believed would happen to me. I mean, a lot of my mum's side of my family suffer a lot with mental health problems. By, again, growing up, I had that thing where that's not going to be me. I'm not like those people. You know, it was kind of like, yeah, I know. And disassociating myself from that, thinking actually naively that I was invincible, that, yeah, I've managed to get to this career. I can take on this stress. I can work 13-hour days. I can work 7 days of the week, no breaks. I was going in and teaching Saturday school because of my role. I felt that I had to. I felt prove myself a lot because of my age and because I was a woman. And I felt that, that I had a lot to prove to this school that, they hired me, but I obviously had good references, but they had no idea who I was. So when I wanted to deliberately have a promotion at a job where no one knew who I was. So I just had no idea that the amount of stress and investing in my work meant that I was suffering so much with things like sleep paralysis. I had to get sent to the GP. They wanted to send me to a sleep specialist. My periods were completely off. The pain every month was terrible. And now I know as well, when I've read up about the science of it, that it's actually a sign it's a sign of stress when you have really, really painful periods. I just wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating for days at a time. And then I would binge. And then I had my binge eating disorder as well. I was again in a relationship that wasn't great at the time. And my life went from what I thought was like 100 miles an hour to like 0. And I found that the amount of stress that I was under and the fact that I'd experienced my first panic attack ever from driving to work when I didn't even know what it was. I just felt that my heart, I had like really bad heart palpitations. It felt like I was having like a heart attack. I couldn't control my breathing. I remembered I managed to park up outside the school. The head teacher and the deputy head had to physically get me out of the car.
Oh.
I was crying. I was like, I can't do this. Like I basically had a breakdown. I had a breakdown, and I would take days off at a time. I just felt that I just could not do this job anymore. And it took me to get to the lowest point of taking sporadic days off work, staying in bed on those days, like still in my pajamas. So I was neglecting myself. And in fact, I would go as far as saying it was a form of abuse on myself as well. The fact that I wasn't eating properly, going from under eating to binging, wearing pajamas for 2 to 3 days at a time. And I just never saw anything positive in life. I just felt that, I had this career, but it wasn't serving me, and it ruined me. Like it broke me completely. And I guess the day of where everything transformed, I suppose, was one of the days. It was another lot of days where I'd taken time off and I was in bed, and my brother, he let himself into my house at the time. And he just came in because I had no energy to even engage with people. I wouldn't go and see friends. I would just about, see my mom and my brother and one of my other friends. But I just didn't want to see people. I became very much a recluse. So on this particular day, which was the day where everything changed, is when he just walked in, sat at the end of my bed and said, Tash, you actually can't continue like this anymore. Like, you can't carry on like this. And I guess hearing him say that to me was a shock, but then I actually understood what he meant. And I fully understood that something had to change. And I fully understood as well that only I was going to do that. He couldn't do it for me. The people that I worked for couldn't do it for me. And then it was just thinking that I don't know what to do. And it is one of these things that when you suffer with depression and mental health problems, the person does want to get out of it. And I felt that I did for that whole entire year. I wanted to get out of it, but I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to learn to be happy again. I didn't know how to learn to start looking after myself again. And so he suggested, because my brother is also still a personal trainer, he said, you know what, I think you need to just have a hobby and get yourself out the house. So the days that you're not at work, why don't you just come to the gym and I'll train you. I'll train you for free. And then my immediate reaction, Celeste, the negative individual that I was, my instant reaction was weight training. I said, how is that going to help me? How is that going to make me feel happy? How is that going to help me? And he did not even respond to that. But that was one thing. I know, I felt so bad. I was like, he was just pouring his heart out, trying to tell me that, you need to change your life. And I just kind of just said, well, I don't see how that's going to happen. It actually took quite a few months for me to bring up that conversation again. So after that day, it gave me a lot of food for thought. I didn't act on it because, like I said to you, I'm someone that when I know I have to commit to something, I have to be ready for it, and I will do it wholeheartedly, and I'll take it as far as I can. And I knew for those next few months, I wasn't there yet, because I knew what it was going to entail. It was going to entail 2 hours a week initially after school, you know, when I would normally just be working till like 7, 8 p.m. And I just thought, oh, can I give that time to it? And then one day, a few months later, I said, oh, you know, you said about me coming to the gym. I'll try in like a few weeks and see what happens. And it, and I can't believe I'm sitting here now because retelling this story, because wow, I feel like if I hadn't got to that lowest point, he never would have suggested that. And the fact that if I hadn't have stepped into the gym that day, I would not be where I am now at all. I feel like it was a life-changing moment, that moment. I write a lot about that moment in the book. There's a whole chapter dedicated to that moment in my book. And yeah, I get goosebumps thinking about it, because, you know, I just think it could have gone anyway. Like, you don't know how life can turn out, but it happens that day in the gym meant that I'm here now. I managed to compete in bodybuilding. I managed to write a book and everything else that came after it. And what it became, how it actually got into being something that I learned to love, was I realized that the 2 hours a week that I was in the gym with him, I started to feel different. And it was an unusual feeling, a feeling of a little bit of happiness, but obviously discomfort as well, because I was in a place where I didn't belong. And I would openly say to him, I just, you know, I don't feel like I belong here. I didn't, because I was a newbie lifter. I didn't know what I was doing. And so it was weird that it was only as the months went on, I learned to love the feeling that training gave me. And then I had the biggest ego boost when I started to get really good at it. And when other people started to notice I was getting really good at it, that's when I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this. And it's what confidence can do to you, though, isn't it? Confidence can do wonders.
It can do amazing things. So first of all, thank you for sharing your story. You were giving me goosebumps the whole time. And I was sitting there thinking, like, wow, I can also see little bits of your story in my life too. And it's a little scary, right? Just over time, when you recognize that you have done those things to yourself, and you're the only one that can make that change.
Yeah. And that's it. And I just think, you know, it was me realizing that the 2 hours a week that I felt different. I didn't feel stressed. It was the only time, in fact, I would say in my entire week that I never felt stressed. Obviously it was hard weight training in the moment, but it was a different kind of stress. And it was a feeling of, the feelings of accomplishment after were mega, that I just learned to get addicted to that feeling. And after quite a few months, I said to him, I want to go up to 4 days a week training. And then I ended up he was shocked. He was genuinely shocked. And you know what? I do remember one thing, again, which I wrote in the book. There was one PT session that I had with him where he goes, this was quite early on. This was like maybe quite a few months. I would probably say even 6 months in of training with him. And I was training 4 days a week with him at this point. He said to me during a rest period, I knew you would do this. I just knew. I just knew you would.
I love that. It's so, I love it. Okay. So we got past your rock bottom moment. You've been really honest about the binge eating and the body dysmorphia after competition. For people who only see the perfection that you are on stage, what is the reality that people don't see backstage or in the quiet moments after or, you know, during training?
Yeah. And yeah, competing. Well, where do I start? It is one of those sports where people will judge based on how you look. And so I could look, you know, I went down to my leanest state, single figures body fat, you know, looked incredible to most people. I looked incredible, yet your mind suggests something else. So with your mind, when you're going through all of that and you're getting in your training sessions, getting in your food, everything is military precision. You almost become a perfectionist on another level where nothing can disrupt it. Like life cannot disrupt this. My relationship can't disrupt this. My family can't disrupt this. It is one of those where you have a lot of mental turmoil, I think. And because you have such a perfectionist attitude, so to be able to get to stage, everything has to be done military. Your times of eating, what you eat, exactly how much you eat, the times that you train, everything is done to that degree, which is actually not reflective of life at all. So on the outside, people will look at you like this amazing athlete who's got everything, everything's together. When actually behind the scenes, my relationship at the time, I'm not with him anymore. Obviously, it was many years ago, but at the time, that really took a real hit because he was not someone that weight trained. And obviously, for a lot of people, he's not a competitor either. So unless you're a competitor, you never really fully understand what it's like. You can try to understand, but you never, ever truly, really understand what it's like. So every day you're just viewing everything as numbers. Am I good enough? You're forever looking in the mirror as well, even though you have this perfect physique, an absolute perfect physique, yet you're still criticizing it. You're lifting up your six pack to the mirror, looking back at it. And even though it's a blooming six pack, you're still like, no, I'm not lean enough yet. I've still got this amount of weeks to go. And yeah, it's crazy that competing, hands down, I will say it changes your personality completely. My relationship changed. A lot of things go on with a woman hormonally, like I lost my periods for 9 months. You don't view food the same, very critical of your body. Your libido completely diminishes. So again, that's another facet of the relationship on top of the food issues that again affect the relationship. And towards the end, a few weeks before you're about to step on stage, your whole personality just changes because scientifically, again, because you're on the lowest calories, your body is crying out for food, but you're not allowed to eat the right amount of food. You have to stick with those calories, and you're tired all the time. You have no energy to even do anything. Like the coldness that you feel as well. That was something I'd never understood. And I guess I know, having spoken to some women with eating disorders who suffered with anorexia, that was one thing that when they had anorexia, that would happen to them all. Like even in 15 degrees Celsius weather, you would be absolutely freezing. Like you'd have to wear a hat, scarf, gloves, jumpers all the time. Even though it'd be bright and sunny, like your body temperature changes, your sleep changes. It's a lot of things that people own, and people only see the body because they're not living your life, but they don't understand, more importantly, what happens when you finish competing. Because I feel that the easiest part in some ways, despite everything I've mentioned, the easiest part is getting on the stage. The hardest part is coming out of it because you don't know who you are anymore. You have no idea who you are. And I'd say hands down, that was probably harder than the 2 years and the 6 months that I took into preparing for the bodybuilding shows. That was definitely the worst, the aftermath.
I cannot even imagine. So I was an Ironman athlete for a while.
Wow.
Well, I'm sitting here listening to your story and I'm like, oh my God, like I completely understand. Like your days are not your life anymore. You have to go by your training schedule. So like you're like on my app, okay, 2-hour run and another like a 3,000 yard swim. Okay, how am I going to fit this in? And then like you're planning your entire life around your training schedule. No, sorry, I can't go out Friday night because I have a 5-hour ride on Saturday morning. Like you're just like, what is my life? And then
you understand, Celeste, then that you have to, when you do a sport as extreme as like bodybuilding or Ironman, whatever it is, you have tunnel vision for it. Nothing goes above the level of importance as your training, right? It's
not even your emotions.
Yeah.
Like you don't have time to go feel that sadness or whatever it is, like, or I can't go eat that ice cream because it's not in the training plan. I remember my boyfriend at the time was like, Celeste, that's not in the training plan. And I'm like, you suck. Yeah.
This is the thing. It's just, and I know there are a lot of sports out there that are very similar. Obviously, I've only really experienced, bodybuilding. Powerlifting is a bit different because it's not an aesthetic based sport.
Mm-hmm.
And the training for it is, as long as I get in the gym an hour and a half, 4 days a week, it's not a problem. And I'm in the gym a lot of the time anyway. But it is one of those things where people don't understand how much you invest physically, mentally, emotionally. Nothing goes above its level of importance. And rightly or wrongly, everyone around you, even people you love, will not know how to handle that. And it's weird because it's taken me, you know, I competed in 2019, we're 2025 now. I still get days where I reflect on that time of my life and that particular relationship. And I feel a lot of sadness because even though I couldn't help how I was at the time, you know, you only realize things years after they happen, but it is one of these things where how could I have expected him to understand when he wasn't in it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, it's a weird thing to think about, I suppose.
There's this quote that another woman on the podcast gave me, and she says, "You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards."
I love that. That's
And
amazing.
so, yeah, when you think about all of the things that have had to come together to be able to make you the person that you are today, ugh, it's just beautiful.
It is. And it's, yeah, I reflect a lot and I just think it is because whether they're good moments, whether they're bad moments, they still form who you are. Good experiences, bad experiences. And I guess you can't really live without the bad either, because in some ways I feel like the bad experiences or the more hurtful experiences, they are what made me who I am more so than the good parts, I think.
Yeah, because they show you your grit and your resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you need a hell of a lot of resilience to do Ironman and bodybuilding.
Oh my God.
It's like
So much.
Imagine.
Yeah. So what's crazy too, and then I'll move on to my next question, but like, I know like how fast I was as a swimmer, right? Like I would usually be one of the first women out of the water, but I would still look at the other women and be like, holy crap, I don't even look like you. Your legs are perfect. You like are slim and just, you look like a machine. I'm built like a swimmer, but they're built like runners. And I'm just like, I want to be you. And then I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, I know you just trained for 20 hours this week, but you don't look like it.
And that's what I think. I think it's so easy. And, you know, I will say, especially as a woman, because I know men get this as well, but I feel like women a lot more so, maybe because they speak about it more. I don't know, but I feel like women are very self-critical of themselves. Even the most successful women, I think, you know, the fact that you've done an Ironman, I think is absolutely incredible. But it's crazy to think that even you saying that has made me think that even you at that time was still like you weren't good enough, sort of thing, that you were to do something like that.
And the crazy thing is we also judge other women too. Like we're like, oh, that's a line around your bra line. Like
Yes.
you could do something about that. And it's just like, no, don't say those things. You don't know how hard they're training. You don't know what they're eating. And it's just a vicious circle.
True. It is true. It is. And especially that because bodybuilding is purely an aesthetic sport on the day. When you're judged, it's just on your aesthetics. You know, no one's going to know how many hours you put in the gym. Like it really is based on how you look on the day and how lean you are. And it was, I do remember that you've just reminded me of, weirdly, I never really looked at the other women's physiques as such, but I remember being backstage on the first show. But I remember looking at myself in the mirror in the toilet and thinking, I'm not, I don't look lean enough, which is mad because when I look back at pictures of myself, I'm like, I was single figures body fat. Like, what?
Incredible.
And I remember taking, I've still got the pictures where I'm just taking pictures of myself in my gown and my bikini backstage. And I just was still self-critical on the day.
Do you think anything would have been good enough though?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't think so. I think no matter how good I looked, I still would not have thought that I was, I think.
When you think about it today, if you were back in those shoes, do you think that there is something that you've learned over the past 6 years that would put you in a place where you're like, yep, no matter what happens today, I am perfect as I am?
Yeah. And I think it's taken me to get to where I am now to be accepted. I'd say I'm more accepting of how my body is now. Like I don't care anymore that I don't have a six pack anymore. I have a little roll in my tummy, but I love my strong legs. I have strong arms, and it took years though after bodybuilding for me to fully accept who I am, because now I don't look at it so much aesthetically. I look at myself more holistically now, which is weird because now holistically, when I view myself now, I'm like, how have I eaten today? Have I had enough protein? Have I had like 3 meals? Have I been to the gym and trained hard? Yes. Have I slept well? Have I hydrated enough? And it's weird because having like the best relationship with food, which is what I have now, which has taken years to recover from, that's my level of success now compared to back then, little me back then when I'd only just turned 30 as well, when I'd competed, that I just felt that the epitome of success was, full stage, obviously looking lean, getting absolutely shredded. But really the success for me now is, am I maintaining a healthy relationship with food? Yes. Am I healthy and training hard? Yes. Am I eating well enough? Yes. And you know what? Even when I do still take, progress photos, which I share on my Instagram, no matter what size I am now, it's being able to accept that health, that's not health. I look at that back then and I thought it was health and it wasn't. I mean, I didn't have a period for 9 months. So how was that health? So the fact that, my periods, my cycle is regular, my hormones, I got my bloods done recently, everything is really good. To me, that is what I view success is now. And it's not, I look back sometimes at the pictures and I'm like, wow, I had an amazing six. Well, and then not many women can actually get 6 packs even when they're lean. Yeah. I was lucky that I could. But yeah, you look back and you're like, wow. But then I know what sacrifices are made to look like that, like Rochelle and everything else. And I'm like, I'm not prepared to do it. And even more so, my relationship with food, I'm not willing to do anything now, which is why I went into powerlifting, because it's not a non-aesthetic sport. And you maintain a good relationship with food because it's a non-aesthetic sport. I know that any decision I make now in fitness, whatever sport I decide to do after powerlifting, I will ensure that it will never, ever hinder the relationship with myself or food.
I love that. Oh, I'm now, and you're just making me excited for my future of like how my life is going to progress and change, because I did quit Ironman and I quit doing marathons, and it just feels so much more fulfilling because I was chasing all of the successes that came with, the achievement. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited to know what you're going to do next, Celeste.
I don't know, but we'll find out. Okay, so another question for you. You have a quote and you say, always stay true to you. So leaving teaching was a massive step, and then writing your memoir is another. What gave you the courage to step out of those old identities and claim something new? And when you say always stay true to you, what does that mean to you now compared to 5 years ago?
Wow. What does it mean to me now? It means that now I will do everything for myself. And what I mean by that is, if I want to pursue something, it would always be for my own gratification, not anyone else's. And I will never feel pressure to be anyone but myself. And in fact, I will go as far as saying I will always be unapologetically me now. And it took me, when I think about, my life when I was a teacher, I was the young people pleaser who wanted to just prove to everyone else that I was this hardworking, I could handle this stress sort of person. I was ambitious, when actually that I think staying true to me now is being able to speak up. If I don't agree with something, I will say, no matter how much, it hurts someone's feelings, or it might even be like my past experience leaving that relationship that I knew wasn't serving me anymore. That was hard. That was me staying true to me, because I wasn't willing to go with what society expected of me, that, I was in my 30s and it was my last chance of having a child if I was going to. And I feel like now, being unapologetically me and staying true to me is doing everything I want to do, despite, what society might perceive that I should be doing at my age, heading more towards 40 and everything else that is expected. You see everyone else's lives, but I always knew that I wanted to be different. And I feel that this is what my book is all about. It's all about a personal development journey that can actually be related to anyone. Because a lot of people, when they do read this book, they will actually fully understand the stages of which you see how I transform. Like, you literally see chapter by chapter how I transform to who I am now. And a lot of people are living lives now where they're not staying true to them. because they're staying in a relationship because they feel that they can't let their family down, or they're not, some women are not fulfilling their dreams because they're like, oh, well, I have this other responsibility. Or it might even be people that are staying in a job that they absolutely hate. It's like, I will not, as soon as I know that something is not serving its purpose to me, I will exit that situation. And that doesn't mean to say that, relationships are hard. I'm in a new relationship now, which I'm very happy about. And relationships take work, and I'm fully invested in that. And not everything is going to be perfect and linear and, well structured. But what I am saying is life is too short to not do the things you want to do. And people are holding themselves back and not chasing happiness, which they don't understand that staying true to you is the true happiness. That's my version of what staying true is.
I absolutely agree with that. And, this just keeps reiterating what I want for my life too, because I was the people pleaser. Like, I walked down the aisle and then basically had a panic attack and decided, nope, I'm not doing this. After I said I do, we didn't sign anything, right? But
Wow.
but no, like this is the era of saying yes to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think everyone needs to have more balls like us.
Yes. Yes.
But it took a long time for me to have the balls to do things. It took a lot of years to invest in myself, to realize that I'm not going to be fearful anymore. If I want to do something, if I want to change, changing my careers was probably the biggest thing, like the biggest risk. People are scared to take risks. And I think people would be more happy if they did take more risks, because what they don't see is what will happen after is that you'll probably be more happy.
Yes. But I feel like they have to have so many experiences like you and I have had, and like almost get to the point where they're screaming, like, I can't do this anymore, just because they don't know where that limit is anymore, or like what they don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. So some practical wisdom for women. What do you want women to know about their healing with their relationship with food, their body, or success? What's the first shift that they can make when they feel trapped between discipline and destruction?
So my best advice would be accept your flaws, whether that's, your relationship with food, if it's not how you want it to be, if you know that you have times where you're out of control with food. I think it's just accepting that this is a flaw that you can change. And it does go back to what I said before about when you want to change, you have to invest in change. And then it's taking the actions to change. And I just think healing is accepting that it's going to take time, and you have to have the time and patience when you do invest. And I'm glad that, on reflecting now, years later, that the years that I spent trying to fix my relationship with food, it had to be done in that duration of time, because it wasn't a quick fix. And I think to any woman out there who is struggling, like with their body, with their food, and things are not how you want it to be, all I will say is time, patience, commit to changes for a significant amount of time. And you'll be shocked to see that the changes, it's never just one big change. So when I look at my relationship with food, it wasn't like, oh, I've recovered from disordered eating, I've recovered from binge eating disorder. It was the little things day by day. It was having 3 meals a day. It was having less binges as opposed to quickly eliminating them. So the changes are so much more minute than you realize. So you will look at the end picture and be like, okay, I'm fully recovered. But there were like 100 changes that came before that. So I think investing in yourself and time and patience to that healing, you will get there, and just keep persevering, because that's what I did. And even when you feel at times where you haven't got any more energy left in you to try, I would just say, just keep doing it. It's like banging your head against a brick wall every day of your life. But you know what? You'll get there. You have to trust yourself that you will as well. You have to trust yourself. I did. So even though it took me so many years to recover, I envisioned my life. So I really do believe in like manifestation and stuff like that. Like, I manifested one day I'm not going to be like this. One day I'm going to be able to have biscuits and I'm not going to eat the whole packet. So I think it's just envisioning envisioning the life you want to lead, and then even just envisioning it is you striving for it. And that's what I would say to them.
You know, you and I are so similar. It's really funny. I had a conversation with myself in the mirror last night because I've been having a rough week and my boss sent me a whole bag of candy. And so I had like a box of Whoppers last night. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, Celeste, I know that you're better than this. I love you, but we can't keep doing this. Like, this is just not, no.
Well, look, nothing's perfect either. Even the relationship with food now, I love the relationship I have with food now, but is anything perfect? No, like nothing is perfect. And I wouldn't even view it as perfect. Like I will still have a Five Guys if I want a Five Guys. I'll have a Saturday, but you know what it is? It's learning to give my body what it needs and not getting to the point of like wanting to like vomit my guts up, which is what I used to do. Like, when you get to that point, it's like, I know my boundaries and everything. So I think it's important to have balance as well in life. Like you don't want to live your life unhappy, but it's just fundamentally like, unless something is seriously affecting your health, then change it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think having a balanced life where you can enjoy like fun foods as well as having like a good structure if you're training for a particular sport, whatever, I think that's what's important.
I love it. Well, how can people reach out to you, work with you, etc.? Yeah.
Yes. So guys, you can find me on Instagram at Natasha Kostalas. That's Kostalas. People have trouble with my surname. You will also see, I don't know if this is actually video recorded, but this is the book. Yes, this is the book. The link to the book is on my bio in Instagram. So everything is basically on my Instagram. You can find me there.
And if you send me the link, I will put it in the description of the podcast.
Brilliant. Excellent. And also I do write for Substack as well. So I run a weekly podcast, the Binge to Barbells podcast. That's on Spotify. And I write weekly fitness articles for Substack, which I'll also send you, Celeste, so people can find me on Substack if they want to read my articles for free.
Perfect. And I'm totally going to buy your book. I'm super excited to read it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation.
This has been amazing, Celeste. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. That was an amazing conversation. What stood out to me most in Natasha's story is how something that gave her confidence eventually became the very thing that stole it. And yet, instead of staying in the cycle of the devil that she knew, she chose to rebuild. And that's important because this is where so many of us get trapped. As humans, we are wired to crave comfort, even when that comfort is actually pain. Think about it. Toxic relationships that you stay in. Not because it's good, but because you can predict exactly how bad it will be. The job that you dread every morning. But you keep showing up because at least you know the routine that misery will hand you. The coping mechanism that you return to again and again, even though it leaves you empty, because you know what that crash afterwards feels like. Our nervous systems cling to the familiar, even if that familiar thing is the thing that is breaking us down. Because the familiar feels safer than the unknown. And the devil that you know whispers, stay here. At least you understand this pain. But the unknown, that is absolutely terrifying. Because what if the new thing is worse and we can't go back to the old one? What if you quit the job and you never find another one? What if you leave the relationship and end up being alone forever? What if you stop numbing and you finally have to feel what you're running away from? I know this from my own life, but for me, it was Ironman training. That discipline gave me structure, and in so many ways, it gave me confidence. But it also fed my perfectionism. And that part of me believed that worth had to be earned in sweat and mileage and in medals. And so I would chase the PR, the Boston qualifier, the external proof that I was enough. And yet in those quiet moments, it left me feeling depleted. I wasn't running towards joy. I was running from myself. It was familiar, predictable, but it was not freedom. And that is what Natasha's story reminds us. Because at some point, the weight of staying the same becomes heavier than the fear of change. Rock bottom is not just a collapse, it is actually clarity. It's that moment that your body, your spirit, your truth says, I cannot keep doing this anymore. And that moment is absolutely not a failure. It is a doorway. It is a threshold back to yourself. You are not your job. You are not your titles. You are not your competition results or your scale weight or the version of you that the world applauded, but that left you feeling hollow. Like Natasha said, always stay true to you, even if that means letting go of the identities you once thought would save you. Because sometimes it's in that letting go and that terrifying leap into the unknown that you finally land in your own life.
Thanks for tuning in and being here, for healing out loud, and for walking this path beside me. If this episode cracked something open or helped you remember a part of yourself, pass it on and share it with someone you love. For more support, free resources, or the next steps to your journey, head over to my website, myhealingisyourhealing.com. And if you loved today's conversation, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your words help this space grow and help more women find their way home to themselves. If I was your muse today, then my healing is your healing. Until next time.